Hey, good morning, everybody. Michael DDA here. Today, maybe we'll get to it. We're going to hear Enoch ask the question, where is the man who delights to know the way of Yehovah? Oh, I'll tell you, that touches my heart like few things can. Where is the man who delights to know the way of Yehovah? Hey, here I am! Pick me! Hani is the way it writes. Here I am. Well, we're going to cover some really interesting things today. Righteous men in the antediluvian world. Last week we talked about many of the unrighteous men in the antediluvian world, and we're going to spend much time today also talking about unrighteous seed of Adam. That's what the world's filled with right now. Adam's seed. Fallen seed. Ooh, so much to see. Let's talk briefly about what we did last week, and then we'll move on to our class for today. First, I want you to see this. Remember we talked about Cain putting the blood of his brother into the ground, and it was polluting the ground. The ground was crying out to Yehovah. And he heard the ground. Remember, the heavens and the earth are witnesses. And the blood pollutes the ground. Cain was a tiller of the soil. Remember his brother Abel, what did he do? He was involved with keeping of sheep, the flocks, the zoon, the sheep and the goats. But his brother was a tiller of the ground. And when the blood of Abel went into the ground, Cain cursed himself. Yehovah had no choice. He was to become what did we call it last week?
Forager.
A forager and a wanderer. Thank you, Carrie. Yes, a forager and a wanderer is what he was going to become. He brought it on himself. We've got him as what? A fugitive and a vagabond. Folks, we've got to think better. Here's a man who had a place. He had land. But now the land's not going to produce for him. So how is he going to get food? It's about getting food. How is he going to get it? If the land won't produce for him, what does he do? He goes searching for it, Carrie says. And that's exactly what he did. He was traveling, constantly traveling, never settling down, foraging, looking for the fig trees, for the olive trees, for the honey, he probably had flocks. So he could have meat, he could have dairy. But he was constantly to be moving around. But what did he do? Well, we'll see it here. We'll also see it in Yasher. It says he had a son with his woman, who was his woman, one of the daughters of one of his sisters. Remember, we saw that Adam and Hava had 2 sons and 3 daughters. Well, after that, they had more sons and daughters. But here's 3 daughters now and only 1 man. How many daughters did he take with him? At least 1, we know that. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was more than 1. Well, what did he do? He begat a son, verse 17, and built a city. Built a city! What are you thinking, Enoch? Or Cain? What are you thinking, Cain? Yehovah told him to be a forager and a wanderer. And he's going to now build a city. What do you do in a city? You settle down, you make roots. Is that what he was told to do? Well, we've got to understand more. You know, just because it says he built a city, does that mean it was a good idea? You know, I put it in pink because I want to make sure that you understand it's a bad idea. We're going to see in Yasher in just a moment that he said he was supposed to be a forager and a wanderer till the day of his death. Well, we get mixed signals so often in the Torah and in Yasher. You know what? That's why you got to learn line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. We talked about this man Lamech, a descendant of Enoch, who took two wives, Adah and Zillah, from the righteous man on the Seth side. Not that all the Seth side is righteous, don't ever go there. From the righteous man, he took these two daughters. And these two daughters, first Adah bore him Yuval and Yovel. But then Zillah, we're going to see it today, who was on a birth control pill or birth control formula, let's call it, for many years, in her old age bore two children. One was Tubal-Cain, the other was Naamah. We talked about, why is Naamah mentioned? Why do they talk about a woman in Torah? Well, we talk about a woman in Torah because she's going to give birth to a significant man. In this case, she's going to become the Isha of Noah. And she's going to give birth to three sons. Well, those are the seed. We're all seed of Noah, men, and we're also seed of Adam. Because remember, Noah came from Adam. Always goes back. Keep that in mind. Seed, multi-generations, comes from men going to men. The last thing we talked about was Seth being born. And it said about Seth when he bore his son, Enosh, or Inush. It says that men, they added it, then began to call on the name of Yehovah. Well, maybe they didn't, maybe they didn't. Again, there's hardly a week goes by that we don't find something in Torah that doesn't quite match up. Some of these things are just completely out of nowhere that they come up. Remember, we saw in verse 23, then Lamech said to his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice, wives, Nashim of Lamech. Listen to my speech, for I have killed a man for wounding me, even a young man for hurting me. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, then Lamech 77-fold. Where in the world did that come from? Well, Yasher gives us some additional information, which is really fun to see and understand. All right, well, let's go then to Yasher, because this is where we left off last time, was in Yasher. I want to pick up, well, again, with just a little teeny bit of a review. We saw last time, we saw this. Enoch. Look what it says. Cain went out from the presence of Yehovah. Oh, isn't that so sad? Leaving the presence of Yehovah. Oh, I don't ever want to leave the presence of Yehovah again. Been there, done that. Not going to do it again. From the place where he was, and he went, what? Foraging and wandering in the land toward the east of Eden. He and all belonging to him. Canaan knew his woman in those days, and she conceived and bare a son and called his name Enoch. Listen what it says. In that time, Yehovah began to give him quiet, give him rest and quiet in the earth. What? And at that time, he also began to build a city. Did he think somehow that because the pressure was off in his wandering, that he was doing okay in his foraging and wandering, that now he had permission from Yehovah to build a city? Look at it, it says it twice. Yet look what it says right here in verse 32. And it shall be when thou shalt till it, it shall no more give thee its strength, as in the beginning, for thorns and thistles shall the ground produce. And thou shalt be moving, foraging, and wandering in the earth until the day of thy death. Until the day of thy death. Does Yehovah change? Does his word endure forever or not? Is Yehovah going to say one thing and do another? No, this is not appropriate that he's building this city. What's going to happen now? How's he going to get his food? How do you get your food in the city? You got to depend on other people to bring it to you, don't you? But is that what Yehovah told him to do? I don't think so. You know what? Because he told Cain, did he also tell all Cain's seed that they were supposed to be wanderers? I wonder. We're going to see later on when Ham, where it says he defiled his father. Something along those lines. I believe it was defiled his father. I think he took his mother, had sex with his mother. But because of that, all Ham's seed, beginning with Canaan, was going to be cursed, and they were all to be servants of the sons of Japheth and Shem. But they weren't. So with this curse, is this a curse that's supposed to be for the others? I wonder. Questions. There's lots of questions. Questions are good. They keep us thinking, keep us learning, keep us growing. Well, here's where we're going to pick up today. And it was in the 130th year of the life of Adam upon the earth that he again knew Hava, his woman. And she conceived and bare a son in his likeness, in his image. Ooh, we'll talk about that some more when we get to Genesis 5. And she called his name Seth, saying, because Elohim has appointed me another seed in the place of Abel, for Canaan had slain him. I think it wasn't her that said that. I don't think it was her that named his son. I think we're going to see that it is the man who actually begets the sons in Torah. And look at what the next verse says. Seth lived 105 years and begat a son. Who begat a son? Seth begat a son. Remember, his woman is bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. What she does, he does. He begat the son. Seth called his name Enosh, This is the same Enosh that we were just reading about at the end of chapter 4. Saying, well, here, Enosh. What does Enosh mean? Enosh is in the righteous line. Ooh. Yes, I got to talk about this. How should I say this? Enosh. Well, here, let me just finish this. Maybe just finish this verse, then we'll talk about what I was just going to talk to you about. It says, Seth lived 105 years. Seth, 105 years. And he begat a son, called his name Enosh, saying, because in that time the sons of men, the sons of men, I didn't realize that wasn't the first one. I was thinking this is the first one for the sons of men. We're going to talk about the sons of men. Began to multiply and afflict their souls and hearts by transgressing and rebelling against Elohim. Hear that? We, by transgressing and rebelling against Elohim, talking to men, afflict our souls and our hearts. It's opposite. It's supposed to be hearts and souls. It's always hearts and souls in Torah, but here it's the opposite. Got to ask ourselves, why is that the case? Well, look at this. We're talking about in the times of Enosh. Well, we just read at the end of Genesis 4 that it was at the time of Enosh that men began to turn to Yehovah. Which is right. Enosh means what? Mortal man. Mortal man. Enosh, mortal man. Well, here we are. What do we have? Look at this. Seth is born when Adam is 130 years old. Enosh is born when Seth is 105 years old. Add that together, 235 years, and that's how long it took for the earth to be so polluted that Yehovah was beginning already to be fed up with it. Does that sound to you like men turning to Yehovah? Or does that sound to you like men turning away from Yehovah? I think it's the latter. Hearts and souls. What does this note say? When we choose to transgress and rebel against Yehovah's eternal and unchanging ways, we afflict our own hearts and souls, our lavav and our nabesh. The lavav is that thing in us that only Yehovah can discern. We think of it as the spirit, our spirit. Then we have heart, or we have souls, thoughts and emotions. And based on our thoughts and emotions are how we act. But it's always supposed to be led by the heart, by the spirit within us. But here we're talking about the sons of men. Right here, the sons of men. And it was in the day of Enosh that the sons of men continued to rebel and transgress against Elohim, to increase the anger of Yehovah against the sons of men. The sons of men, who are they? Well, I did some searching because I've seen in the scriptures this phrase, the sons of men, before. And we have now seen it in 2 verses. We've seen it 3 times. First time in the second verse, twice in this verse. Who are the sons of men? Well, you know what? Let me tell you about who the sons of men are. I created a topic note this week called the sons of men. The phrase, the sons of men, is only used one time in Torah. It's going to be used right here. It says this, but Yehovah came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men had built. Well, you know what this word is, sons of men? B'nai ha-Adam. B'nai ha-Adam. That's what's being translated as the sons of men. The seed, remember we've talked about this before, B'nai. We want to make it sons. It's seed of ha-Adam. Up until now, ha-Adam has only had 3 sons. One of them was killed. But we're talking about his seed now, multi-generational. They would be the Banim. Those 3 sons would be the Banim of ha-Adam. But we're talking about the B'nai, the seed that produces after itself of ha-Adam. Who's that? Everyone. They're also called the seed of Belial. We won't discover that until much later. But let me tell you, the seed of ha-Adam, ha-Adam's seed, is who we're talking about. It's ha-Adam's seed who is transgressing, and rebelling against Yehovah. And it's them, ha-Adam's seed, all men, well, practically all men, who are afflicting their own souls and their own hearts. Well, remember, it's all about understanding this within the context of the scriptures. And so I already showed you, here, sons of ha-Adam is in Genesis. Seed, B'nai ha-Adam. I hope you're learning some of these Hebrew words as we go through our lessons each week. I really work hard to try and teach you just a couple words every week to help you understand things better. Critical things that we must understand. Well, here's another place where ha-Adam's, the man's seed, is being used. I'm going to move it up. Look at the first one. Help, Yehovah, for the godly kind. Its word is kasid. Kasid. Do you remember hearing that word before? For the godly kind. They put it men. They made it men. Godly men. It's seed. The godly seed ceases. For the faithful disappear from among ha-Adam's seed. Now this happens to just say Adam's seed. But we're talking about exactly the same group of people. B'nai Adam. Kasid. Look at what it's saying. The godly kind. Remember when ha-Adam sinned, he created a new kind. Ha-Adam's seed, the one that produces after his own image and his own likeness, and not Yehovah's image and Yehovah's likeness. But look what it says. Help, Yehovah, for the godly kind. The kasid ceases. Where's the kasid? What is a kasid? The kind that Yehovah originally created ha-Adam to be. That's the kasid. But Ha-Adam made a new kind called Ha-Adam's seed, which all of us were born into. But let's take a look at this kassid. I want to go to Psalms 50. And I want you to see who this kassid is. Ooh, this is a very important scripture. You've got to memorize this and understand this and be able to get to it because it's something that you can use often. Look what it says. Gather my saints together. This is Yehovah speaking. Gather my kind. Let me show you it in the Hebrew. He says this. Gather to me my kind. There's the word right there. Kassid. The very same word we're talking about. The kassid is diminished. Do you see how important this is? Gather my kind, my kassid, who cut covenant. Cut. Look at the word. Karath. Cut a covenant. What's the word? Barith. Karath. Barith. A cutting with me by slaughter. What are we talking about? We're talking about Passover. The kassid, really what I should say is Ha-Adam's seed becomes the kassid at Passover. The kassid is the everyman that we're going to be talking about later on as we go through these studies. They're the ones who have come back into the image of Elohim through the second birth. And that is the goal of all men, to recognize that they are Anush and then rectify it so that they can become kassid, ish, who serve only Yehovah. Well, now in that context, let's continue our reading in Yasher. Oh, I want to give you just a few more verses. Do you mind? This is some verses about Adam's seed. Look what it says. Here's another one. This is 31 of Psalms 19. It's 31:19 of Psalms. Oh, how great is your goodness, which you have laid up for those who fear you, which you have prepared for those who trust in you in the presence of Ha-Adam's seed. Hear that? Here's another one. Hell and destruction are before Yehovah. So how much more the hearts of Ha-Adam's seed? Hell and destruction are before the hearts of Ha-Adam's seed. For what happened to Ha-Adam's seed also happened to the animals. One thing befalls them. As one dies, so dies the other. Adam's seed is destined for destruction and oblivion. There's no eternal life for Adam's seed. They've got to become the kassid. Surely they all have one breath. Man has no advantage over animals, for all is vanity. And what does he finish with this Ecclesiastes with?
Vanity.
No, he finishes with Ecclesiastes by saying, what is the conclusion of the matter? Fear Elohim and give glory to him. No, fear Elohim and keep his commandments. For this is Adam's all. these definite articles. You've got to make sure that you look at these definite articles and begin to understand them because they speak volumes to us. Here's the last one I found that I wanted to share with you. This is an evil in all that is done under the sun, that one thing happened to all. Truly the hearts of Ha-Adam's seed are full of evil. Madness is in their hearts while they live, and after that they go to the dead. No, the man who sins shall die. But if a man does what is lawful and right, if he keeps my statutes and my judgments faithfully, he shall surely live. Well, this is what we're talking about. If we get on the way of life, it's going to lead us to Passover and be able to become the Chassid, the Yehovah kind, who's entered into covenant with him by slaughter, by Passover. Ooh, amazing stuff. But now, keep in mind, and let's look at what we're talking about here in Yasher. I want to read this verse 3 again. And it was in the days of Enosh that Ha-Adam's seed continued to rebel and transgress against Elohim, to increase the anger of Yehovah against Ha-Adam's seed. Are we talking about all men? No, we're talking about the ones who will not turn back and begin to follow Yehovah again, come into covenant with him again. Yehovah hasn't changed. Before it was called Passover, it was called the time of life. The time of life has always been. And Ha-Adam's seed went, and they served other Elohim. Other Elohim! Oh no! Harlots! And they forgot Yehovah who created them and the earth. And in those days, Adam's seed made images. Oh no, now they're serving images. First they're serving other men. Now they're making images of brass and iron, wood and stone. What's the first commandment? Thou shalt have no other Elohim but me. No other Elohim existing before my face. Second commandment, graven images, no graven images. Now they broke both of them. And when you start on one, it's going to lead to the other. Every man made his Elohim, and they bowed down to them. Oh my goodness. And the sons of men forsook Yehovah all the days of Enosh. Does that sound like men began to turn to Yehovah in the days of Enosh like it said in Genesis 4? Doesn't sound like it to me. Yeah, Carrie says 180 degrees off. And the sons of men forsook Yehovah all the days of Enosh and his sons. And the anger of Yehovah was kindled on account of their works and the abominations which they did in the earth. Remember, it's always about their deeds, the fruit of their actions. We're talking about men. We're not talking about ladies. Ladies, follow your man. We're talking about sons. Seed. Adam's seed. Chassid. Only men enter into covenant with Yehovah by cutting with their slaughter at Passover. Not ladies, they're not even there. And Yehovah caused the waters of the river Gihon to overwhelm them. And he destroyed and consumed them and destroyed a third part of the earth. And notwithstanding this, Adam's seed did not turn from their evil ways. When I say that deeds and the fruit of their doings. It's actions, not thoughts. The Ha-Adam seed did not turn from their evil ways, and their hands were yet extended to do evil in the sight of Yehovah. And in those days, there was neither sowing nor reaping on the earth. Yeah, why? Because all we're getting is thorns and thistles. You can't eat them. And there was no food for Ha-Adam's seed. And famine was great in those days. So what's happening? Their actions have turned away. They've transgressed, rebelled against Yehovah. Now he's bringing them land, or giving them land that's not going to produce for them anymore. Now it sounds like there's famine that's coming on the earth. No food. It says, and the seed which they sowed in those days in the ground became thorns, thistles, and briars. For from the days of Adam was the declaration concerning the earth, and the curse of Elohim, which he cursed the earth on account of the sin which Adam sinned before Yehovah. Okay, let's keep this in mind. We're talking about this seed of Ha-Adam. Ha-Adam got cursed, and now all the men, all the seed of Ha-Adam is being cursed from generation to generation. Not just the sons of Cain, the sons of Seth are also being cursed. And we're going to see there were other sons and daughters of Ha-Adam that were born. And it was when men continued to rebel and transgress against Elohim and to corrupt their ways that the earth became corrupt. Well, I want to break here, and I want to go through chapter 5 with you right now. We'll come back to this later on in the session today. So let's go to Genesis chapter 5. Here we are. Oops, that's 6. 5. It says, this is the sefer of the genealogy of Ha-Adam, or of Adam. It actually says Adam, of man. Man. You know, when do you choose to write Adam, and when do you choose to write man? Was Adam really ever called Adam, or is he just called man? You know what I'm talking about? Is it Adam or is it Adam? Well, here in this verse, they use Adam twice. But one is called Adam and the other one is man. Which is it? Again, it's pretty discretionary, isn't it? We got to be careful in choosing this word Adam when we could choose the word Adam and get almost a whole different meaning. Remember, Adam comes from the earth. Adamah. And Adam. The Adam comes from the Adamah. He was created in Yehovah's image, but when he sinned, he made a new kind. A polluted kind. A kind that decided for himself what is good and evil because he wasn't serving Elohim anymore. He was serving himself. And that's where we all are right now. So it says, this is the book, the Sefer of the genealogy of Adam. Now, Sefer, the book of the genealogy. What are we talking about? The whole book of Genesis? Or are we talking about this portion of Genesis. It's this portion of Genesis. Let's keep it in mind. They translated his book, but Sefer is writing. Here's the word Sefer. I don't know if I can get it. Oh, yeah, it shows it there. Writings. By implication, it says a book, a bill, evidence, a letter, a register, a scroll. It's a writing. Here's the writings about the genealogy of Adam, of Adam. In the day that Elohim created Adam, he made him in Elohim's likeness. Are we talking about the lady? No, we're not talking about the lady. Well, I'm thinking about it. Here's an age chart. We're going to use this today. It's very important that you have this age chart. I want to give it to you real quick. Copy. And I'm going to go to where we are here in our conference room, and I'm going to give it to you so that you can get this. If you didn't get it last week, get it this week. You need it. It's really important that you have it. I expect everybody to grab that before the day's out. Just click on it, and then when it opens up, you can save file as. Save it as something onto your desktop, and that way it becomes yours. It's a very useful tool. Let me open it up for you. Yeah, that's probably better. This is really important that we begin to see how all these things fit together. Back to Yasher. No, we were back in Genesis. Talking about the day he created Adam. Now, look what it says. Male and female, Zakar and Nekabah. Nekabah, that's female. He had the animals, Zakar and Nekabah. He's not saying Ish and Isha. He's saying Zakar and Nekabah. There's subtle differences, but they're important differences. He created them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam. Oh, isn't that interesting? He's calling them Adam. Reminds me of my mother when I was a kid. She was Mrs. John J. Didier. No, Dorothy. Mrs. John J. Didier. I think we had better understanding in those days. She was he. In the day that they were created. Well, they weren't created at the same time, and he only created the man in his image. The woman came out of the man. But don't think that the woman was there until he created her. Now, many people will try to tell you that. Otherwise, why did it say it's not good for a man to be alone if she was already there? No, he took a piece of him and made her. I put if Nekabah's name, the woman's name, the female's name, was Adam, did she die the same day that he dies? No, it says Adam died in the, 800th year? 830 years? 930 years? Maybe it was 930 years. Died in 930 years. Did she die then? I'm guessing she probably died long before that. Adam. They were called Adam, not mankind. Oh, many translations say he created mankind. No, he created Adam. I put she was he. Once a man takes a woman to himself, she is gone. We are going to see this dozens of times in the Torah. The woman simply disappears. She is he. But Yehovah commands the man commands his hands. The man commands his eyes. The man commands his ears. The man commands his tongue, his feet. Not Yehovah. Well, in the same way, the man commands his woman. His daughter is taught to follow him also, but his daughter is separate from him. But the woman is him. Ooh, subtle differences, but we've got to see these to understand the big picture. Let's continue. And Adam lived 130 years, and he begat a son in his likeness, after his image, and named him Seth. His likeness, not Yehovah's likeness. Remember, there's a new man now. After Adam sinned, there was a new kind created, a perverted kind, a kind that could not have access to the tree of life because we don't want those kind living forever. Those kind gotta die. And Adam died that day. Spiritual death. The Kassid man, the man after Elohim's own image, perished, and a new man was born. They called him Adam's seed. This is the dilemma that we're in today. Oh, here it is right here. I happened to put the verse down we were talking about, Genesis 3. Behold, the man, Adam, is become Hayah as first of his kind, the new kind, to know good and evil. Oh no, Tav and Ra. Good and evil. We were supposed to be in Yehovah's image. Zelem, his image. But now we're in Adam's image. After he begat Seth, the days of Adam were 800 years, and he had sons and daughters. So there were other sons besides the three sons, Abel, or Cain, and Abel, and Seth, and daughters. So all the days, sons and daughters. Benim, okay, we're talking about his flesh. Okay, this is not B'nai. B'nai is about seed, the seed thing that comes from multi-generations. This is Benim. Look at the word they use, Benim. Talking about the male sons of his flesh. And then the Benot are the daughters, sons and daughters. So all the days of Adam, all the days that Adam lived, I like using that Adam. I think it makes more sense. That Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. See, a lot of people think, well, God didn't keep his word. He didn't die on the day that he ate of the tree of good and evil. Yeah, he did. That Kassid, the man in the image of Elohim, died. A new kind was created that day. He was walking dead. And that's where every man is today in the earth. And all the days of Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. And Seth lived 105 years, and he begat Enosh. Who begat Enosh? He begat Enosh. Doesn't even talk about his woman. Look at this. This is what we read in chapter 4, the end of chapter 4. It says, and as for Seth, To him also a son was born, and he named him Enosh. Then Enosh, mortal man, began to call on the name of Yehovah. No, that is not what's going on. We just saw in Yasher what was going on. They were turning, transgressing, and rebelling against the word of Yehovah. Here's Enosh, mortal man. Comes from this word right here. Mortal. It's always men. It's man. But it gets translated oftentimes as man. Well, there's more to understand about this Enosh, the man who knows and understands that he is mortal, that he is Enosh, that he is in Adam's kind, now seeks for the remedy. What's the remedy? Well, the remedy is the good news of the kingdom. You can become Yehovah's Chassid, his kind, once again, the Ezra men. And that is what I'm trying to communicate to men every day. We're going to see when we get to Yasher that that's what Canaan did. Next week, we're probably going to get to Enoch, and we're going to see that's what Enoch did. Where is the man who delights to know the way of Yehovah? After he begat Enosh, Seth lived 807 years, and he had sons and daughters. I want you to realize there's a pattern going on here. I tried to do this with the colors so that you could see it. Yellow begets Enosh. So once they're born, the second time they're mentioned, I put them in yellow. And then they bear somebody new, I put that in green. Then that one in green is now being mentioned again. He's yellow, and the next one that he begets is in green again. You see the thing, and each time they're doing sons and daughters. Okay, there's a pattern here, and when we start seeing patterns like this, if we watch for when the pattern breaks, that is usually the important thing that Yehovah is pointing out to us. But look at what it says. He begat, he begat, he begat, he begat, every one of them. Let's go down to 9. And Enosh lived 90 years, and he begat Canaan. Look at this. Let's go back to our chart here. I want you to just see this. Here is our age chart. And this, the green here, Adam lived 130 years, he begats Seth. Seth lives 105 years, he begats Enosh. Enosh lives 90 years, he begats Canaan. 70 years, Mahalalel. 65 years, Yared. Here's Enoch, 165 years. Is this their firstborn? Isn't this what we tend to think, that this is their firstborn? I got a hunch maybe this is not their firstborn. Maybe it is. But they're doing it in such a way that they keep the line of righteous men coming down the pike. And maybe some of these men are not as righteous as you might think. We're going to see Canaan, Enoch, Methuselah, and Noah were particularly righteous men. Can't speak the same for Seth. Can't speak the same for Enosh. Can't speak the same for many of these other men. Let's continue reading. Enosh lived 90 years, and he begat Canaan. He begat. And after he begat Canaan, Enosh lived 815 years and had sons and daughters, still in the same pattern. All the days of Enosh were 905 years, and he died. And Canaan, remember Canaan, wow, where do you see Canaan in Yasher? He gets nothing here. And Canaan lived 70 years and begat Mahala, oh brother, let me try this. The double L's really throw me. Mahalal El. After he begat Mahalal, Canaan lived 840 years and had sons and daughters. Well, remember, we were talking about Canaan, who begat Mahalal and some other children. Second was Enan, the third was Marad, and their sisters Adah and Zilhah. This is where Adah and Zilhah come from, Canaan. So all the days of Canaan were 910 years, and he died. Mahalalel lived 65 years, and he begat Yared. After he begat Yared, Mahalalel lived 830 years and had sons and daughters. Again, still following the same pattern. So all the days of Mahalalel were 895 years, and he died. And Jared lived 160 years, 62 years, and begat Enoch. Kanok is the word for that, Kanok. After he begat Enoch, Jared lived 800 years and had sons and daughters. So all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. Now the pattern's going to break. Watch what happens. Enoch lived 65 years and begat Methuselah. After he begat Methuselah, Enoch walked with, look at what it says, walked with God. Well, this word is important for you to understand. Because remember, all the sons of Ha-Adam's seed, remember, generation upon generation upon generation, transgressed and rebelled against Elohim. But now look what it says. It says, after he begat Methuselah, Enoch walked with Elohim, the Elohim. Oh, this is so significant. Didn't say this about the other guys, did it? Well, we know Canaan did. But the other ones does not mention it at all. Again, it's the definite article that gets left out that is so very important. This definite article, Ha-Elohim, is only used 20, 30 times in all of the scriptures. But when it's used, let's use it so we can see and understand things better. When we're talking about the God on the mountain or God on the mountain, it's not God on the mountain. It's the Elohim on the mountain. The Elohim. Well, he's walking with the Elohim, not his own Elohim or the other men in the world. So it says he walked with the Elohim 300 years and had sons and daughters. So all the days of Enoch were 365 years. Enoch walked with Ha-Elohim, and he was not, for Elohim took him. Do you see how this is a variance from the pattern that we've been seeing? Okay, watch for the variances. Methuselah lived 180 years and begat Lamech. After he begat Lamech, Methuselah lived that lived 700 years, 782. I'm sorry, I'm really bad at these numbers, and had sons and daughters. Back to the pattern. So all the days of Methuselah were 965 years, and he died. Ooh, this is pretty interesting. With putting together just a few things from Yasher and from what we're seeing here, we can learn the day in which, or the year, not the day, the year in which the flood came. We know the flood came in a specific day in the second month. I believe it was the 17th day of the second month is when the flood started. But now we know the year that the flood started. And here's how we did it. We know that Methuselah's age when he had Lamech is going to be 187 years. Lamech's age we find in Yasher when Adam dies is going to be 56 years. So by adding those two together, we have 243 years. That's Methuselah's age when Adam died. But now we have to find out, remember, the flood comes when Methuselah dies, the year that Methuselah dies. So now if we take and subtract the 243 from the 949, we get 726. Now, with the 726, we know we're talking about the time that Adam died. How long did Adam live? He lived 930 years. So we add the 930 to the 726, and we get the day that the flood, or the year that the flood came, 1656. I figured this out using the scriptures, and I was so pleased. And this is how I found this particular map. What did I say? 656. Let's take a look at our map again and find out when it was that the floods came. Check it out. Here it is right here. 1656 is the year that the floods came. Isn't that neat to be able to see that? And it gives me great peace because when I found this map, I said, oh, this is exactly what I'm finding when I took all the numbers and started working them out and finding out when things were begat. This was an interesting thing. Look at this. We're talking about 130, 105, 90, 70, 65. Now, here's Noah. Before he begat Shem, he lives almost 3 times longer before he has Shem than any of these other guys lived before they had the sons. Interesting. Why is that? We're going to see it's because Shem knew the prophecy that came from Cain saying that the flood was coming. And Noah didn't want to have sons because he didn't want them to die. Isn't that interesting? Well, so we begin to fill in some of the gaps in some of our understandings. Why is there a variance? How come it was 130, 100? They're all about 100, 150, maybe as low as 65, but no more than 200. Now here's one that's 500. Why? Variance. Why is the variance? We ask ourselves. Well, now we know. So all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. And Lamech lived 182 years and had a son. Again, this is a variance now because that's not how they were saying it up above. Remember, he said he begat somebody. Now it says he had a son. And Lamech called his name Noah. Rest. This one will comfort us concerning our work and the toil of our hands because of the ground which Yehovah has cursed. After he begat Noah, Lamech lived 595 years and had sons and daughters. So all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. And the last verse, and Noah was 500 years old. And Noah begat Shem and Ham and Japheth. Were they triplets? That's how I interpreted this for a long time until I read Yasher. Check this out. Is this the birth order? Shem, Ham, Japheth. Okay, maybe that's not important to you. I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. Well, I got an inquiring mind. Japheth, Shem, and then Ham. Yaphat, Shem, and Ham. That is the birth order. Check it out. Ham was the youngest of the triplets. Over here so I get in line with you. There it goes. So Noah woke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done to him. So the younger son was Ham. So we now know Ham is the youngest. Now in this verse, look what it says here. And were born also to Shem, the father of all the sons of Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder. So now we know that Japheth is the elder. We know that Ham is the younger, Japheth is the elder. Where does that leave Shem? Leaves Shem in the middle. He's a middle child. Well, now look what it says in Yasher. We're not going to get to this for many weeks, but I want you to read it. Yasher 5:16 says, Noah was 480 years old when he took Naamah for a wife. Naamah, 582 years old, conceived and bare a son, and he called his name Japheth, Yaphet, or Yaphat, saying, Elohim has enlarged me in the earth. And she conceived again and bare a son, and she called his name Shem, saying, Elohim has made me a remnant to raise up seed. Look at, he's having a son to raise up seed in the midst of the earth. And Noah was 502 years old when Naamah bare Shem, and the boys grew up and went in the ways of Yehovah, in all that Methuselah and Noah their father taught them. Which boys are we talking about? Yaphat and Shem. You know what? It doesn't even mention Ham. Ham wasn't in the presence of Methuselah. There's something going on here that we've got to understand. In all that Methuselah and Noah, their father, taught them. Methuselah and Noah. Ham is not mentioned at all here. The first time Ham is mentioned is in Yasher. Here it is right here. This is the first time that Ham is mentioned in Yasher. I think this is pretty amazing. And these are the names of the sons of Noah, Noah's seed. Yaphat, Ham, and Shem. They still haven't got the order correct, do they? And sons were born to them after the flood, for they had taken women before the flood. Well, that finishes Genesis 5. Let's go now and turn to Yasher. And here is Yasher, where we're going to pick up. Enosh lived 90 years and begat Canaan. Remember, Enosh, the mortal man, is begatting Canaan. Look what it says about Canaan. Canaan grew up and he was 40 years old, and he became wise and had knowledge and skill and wisdom. And he reigned over all Ha-Adam's seed, and he led Ha-Adam's seed to wisdom and knowledge. For Canaan was a very wise man and had understanding in all wisdom, and with the wisdom he ruled over spirits and demons. Well, I'm not going to go there. I don't see any of that kind of nonsense in Torah, spirits and demons. It may be, I'd have to see what, we talk about meat sacrificed to idols. Spirits and demons, maybe this has to do with over other Elohim in the earth. You just can't trust the translation. You'd have to see the Hebrew to understand this. Unfortunately, I don't have that. And Canaan knew by his wisdom that Elohim would destroy Ha-Adam's men, Ha-Adam's seed, for having sinned upon the earth. And Yehovah would, in the latter days, bring upon them the waters of the flood. Oh my goodness! We're talking about the latter days as it relates to what? The antediluvian world. Isn't that amazing? And look at this. And in those days, Canaan wrote upon tablets of stone what was to take place in the time to come. And he put them in his treasures. Do you hear what's going on here? Canaan was Yehovah's first prophet. He was prophesying of what Yehovah would do in the latter days in bringing the waters of the flood on his earth. He wrote these tablets and he put them in his treasures. Do you hear that? Canaan treasured the word of Elohim. Do we treasure the word of Elohim? Or do we doubt that what Elohim says he's going to do? We have all kinds of things that we can understand about what's going to happen in the last days. And if we will align our lives with Yehovah's word, we can survive those latter days. But we have got to learn to treasure Yehovah's word like Canaan treasured Yehovah's word. Ooh, so beautiful. And Canaan reigned. How old is he? Look at this. He's 40 years old. Where was it? Here it is. Canaan grew up and he was 40 years old. And he became wise and had knowledge and skill in all wisdom. If we go back to our charts, when did he have his first son? He started being wise when he was 40, but he had Mahaliel when he was 70. And he had the girls, the twins, Adah and Zillah, after that. A lot going on in this man's life. This was a righteous man, a Yasher man. And that's why he's included in the book of Yasher. Canaan reigned over the whole earth. And he turned some of Ha-Adam's seed to the service of Elohim. Does that sound like somebody you know? Trying to turn the Ha-Adam seed to service of Elohim? That's what I do every day. Isn't it interesting that it contrasts the service of Elohim with Ha-Adam's seed? They're separate, aren't they? They're being contrasted. He's turning them from Adam's seed to the service of Elohim. Who were they servicing before? Themselves, other men, idols. Oh my. And when Canaan was 70 years old, he begat 3 sons and 2 daughters. Well, here's part of what we've written before. You guys, I see there's comments here that I'm not being able to take time to read, but I will take time to read them before we're done, okay? Three sons, 2 daughters. And these are the names of the children, the Toph of Canaan. The name of the first was Mahalalel. Now look, they put even an extra L in there. That makes it even harder to say. Mahalalel. Mahalalel. The second, Inan. The third, Marad. And their sisters, Adah and Zilha. These are the 5 children, the Toph, the 5 Toph of Canaan that were born to him. And Lamech, the son of Metushael, became related to Canaan by marriage. He took his 2 daughters for his Nashim. Adah conceived and bare a son to Lamech, and she called his name Yavel. And she again conceived and bare a son and called his name Yuval. And Zillah, her sister, was barren in those days and had no offspring. For in those days the sons of men, Adam's seed, began to transgress against Elohim and to transgress the commandments which he commanded to Adam to be fruitful and multiply in the earth. And some of Adam's seed caused their women, their Nashim, to drink a drought that would render them barren. We're talking about birth control. In order that they might retain their figures and whereby their beautiful appearance might not fade. And when Adam's seed caused their Nashim, their women, to drink, Zillah drank with them. Was this Zillah's choice? I doubt it was Zillah's choice. For heaven's sake, she's the daughter of Canaan. She understands. Why did she drink? Because her man told her to drink. Is the sin on her or is the sin on her man? The sin is on her man. It's the man, Ha-Adam. This is Ha-Adam's all. Keep Yehovah's commandments. She drank. And the childbearing women appeared abominable in the sight of their husbands, as widows, whilst their husbands lived for the barren ones only. They were attached. They didn't want the ones that had babies. They wanted the slim ones, the pretty ones. And in the end of days and years, when Zillah became old, Yehovah opened her womb. And she conceived and bare a son, and she called his name Tubal-Cain, saying, after I have withered away, have I obtained him from El Shaddai, the Almighty Elohim. That's El Shaddai. El Shaddai is the one who provides. And she conceived again and bare a daughter, and she called her name Naamah. For she said, after I have withered away, have I obtained pleasure and delight. And Lamech was old and advanced in years, and his eyes were dim, and he could not see. And Tubal-Cain, his son, was leading him, and it was one day that Lamech went into the field, and Tubal-Cain, his son, was with him. And whilst they were walking the field, Canaan, the son of Adam, Cain, the son of Adam, Cain, advanced towards them. For Lamech was very old and could not see, and Tubal-Cain, his son, was very young. Not terribly good hunting partners, if you know what I mean. Talk about a walking disaster. And Tubal-Cain told his father to draw his bow. And the arrows, look at that, arrows, more than one. And with the arrows he smote Cain, who was yet far off. And he slew him, for he appeared to them to be an animal. The arrows entered Cain's body, although he was distant from them. And he fell to the ground and died. And Yehovah repaid Canaan's evil according to his wickedness. Whosoever sheds man's blood, by man his blood shall be shed. For in the image of Elohim he made Adam. He made the man, is what it says. And it came to pass, when Canaan had died, that Lamech and Tubal went to see the animal which they had slain. And they saw, and behold, Cain, their grandpa, was fallen dead upon the earth. Well, they say grandpa, but he's really one's great-great-great-grandfather, and the other's, Tubal-Cain's great-great-great-great-grandfather. But they still call him grandfather. And Lamech was very much grieved at having done this. Why was he grieved? Maybe he was remembering the prophecy that whoever kills Cain shall be cursed 7 times. No. Was it 7 times? Yeah, 7 times. You think maybe that's why he was grieved? And Lamech was very much grieved at having done this. And in the clapping of his hands together, he struck his son and caused his death. And the Nashim, the woman of Lamech, heard what Lamech had done, and they sought to kill him. Do women kill men in Torah? No, a woman never, ever kills a man. When men are stoned, men do it. When women are stoned, men do it. Ladies don't kill men, ever. If you think that's the case, you're wrong. Start looking carefully when you think you see it, and you'll see difference. And the women, the Nashim of Lamech, hated him from that day because he slew Cain and Tubal-Cain. And the Nashim of Lamech separated from him and would not hearken to him in those days. Since when does the servant ignore the master? Is it their place to ignore their husband, their Baal, their master? No, it's not. Adam knows it. I know it. Men of Elohim know it. Let's continue. And Lamech came to his Nashim, his women, and he pressed them to listen to him about this matter. And he said to his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice, O Nashim, O women of Lamech. Attend to my words, for now you have imagined and said that I slew a man with my wounds. Well, now they're saying that they said it. You have imagined and said, I slew a man with my wounds, and a child with my stripes, for their having done no violence. But surely know that I am old, gray-headed, and that my eyes are heavy through age, and did this thing unknowingly. Well, I think he did do it unknowingly. I don't think he did it on purpose, not according to what we're seeing. And the wives, the Nishim, the women of Lamech, listened to him in this matter. And they returned to him, listen to this, with the advice of their father, Adam. Adam is still alive, and he's encouraging them to follow their man. Go back home. But they bore no children to him from that time, knowing that Elohim's anger was increasing in those days against the sons, against Ha-Adam's seed, to destroy them with the waters of the flood for their evil thoughts, or for their evil doings. No, it's about doings. It's about the things you do, not the things that you think. They knew Canaan's prophecy, didn't they? That Yehovah was going to destroy the earth. We just read it. Their father's prophecy. And Mahalalel, the son of Canaan, lived 65 years, and he begat Yared, and Yared lived 62 years, and he begat Enoch. I still have a half an hour. All right, we get to talk about Enoch. You think Canaan's good? Wait till you hear Enoch. Oh my goodness, what a man of Elohim. And Enoch lived 65 years, and he begat Methuselah. Enoch walked with the Elohim. I could put the Elohim in there because I saw it in Torah. After having begot Methuselah, and he served Yehovah and despised the evil ways of men. Do you see this? Here's a man that's going to walk with the Elohim, serve only the Elohim. He despises the ways of men, worthless and unprofitable ways. And the soul of Enoch was wrapped up. Look at this. The soul, the nefesh of Enoch was wrapped up in the instruction, the Torah of Yehovah, in knowledge and in understanding. And he wisely retired from Ha-Adam's seed and secreted himself from them for many years. He wanted to learn Yehovah's ways, his statutes, his judgments, his ordinances. There's a lot to understand. It doesn't come overnight. You've got to invest years. I've been studying Yehovah's words 15 years, full time. It takes time to learn the ways of Yehovah. And it was at the expiration of many years, while he was serving Yehovah and praying before him in his house, Enoch's house, that an angel, a messenger of Elohim, of Yehovah, called to him from heaven. And he said, Here I am. I can't wait to be called, or to hear the call of Yehovah and be able to say, Hani. Here, this is Isaiah 6. It says here, let me move it into the middle so you can see it. There you go. Also I heard the voice of my master. This is Isaiah speaking. Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then I said, here's what he said, Heni shalakani. Here I am, send me. Well, this is what's going to happen to the 144,000 also, the servants of Elohim that he's calling in these last days. Oh, if you read the rest of this or the stuff that precedes this, you're talking about having his sins forgiven him. He's cleansed before Yehovah. His sins are washed away. Remember, the 144,000 are redeemed from the earth. They're the righteous men. There's no sin on them. They are speaking for Yehovah, and they are becoming his shalakim, his sent ones. Well, here he is, being called by Yehovah through his messenger, an angel, apparently in this case, and not another man, it doesn't appear. It says, called to him from heaven. And he said, Hini, here I am. And he said, rise, go forth from thy house, from the place where thou dost hide thyself, and appear to Adam's seed, in order that thou may teach them the way in which they should go, and the way that they should go, and the work which they must accomplish to enter the ways of Elohim. Oh my goodness! Is he teaching them the Father's statutes and judgments and ordinances? Is he teaching them to leave the kingdoms of their birth and the Elohim, which they've served all their life, and now serve only the Elohim? Is he teaching them to enter into covenant with Yehovah by slaughter and become his Kassid, his Ezra men, his kind? Oh, yes, that's exactly what he's doing. And Enoch rose up according to the word of Yehovah, and went forth from his house, from his place, and from the chamber in which he was concealed. He was tucked away for many years, learning Yehovah's statutes and judgments and ordinances. And he went to Adam's seed and taught them the ways of Yehovah. And at that time assembled Adam's seed and acquainted them with the Torah of Yehovah, the instruction of Yehovah. We're talking about the Torah. You know, there's too many of us that think the Torah didn't come until Sinai. Well, does that sound right in the context of an Elohim who doesn't change and whose word endures forever? No, it doesn't work, does it? What's been has always been. We were just in Egypt so long that we had to have it written down for us because we had forgotten it. But you know what? These men, Cain, Enoch, Methuselah, and then Noah, and then Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, they were all the Melchizedek of Yehovah, the head righteous man in the earth. That's what the Melchizedek is. The Melchizedek is not a man, it's a position. It's the head righteous man who's teaching everybody else the ways of Yehovah. Abraham, we're going to see, lived with Noah and Shem for 39 years, learning the ways of Yehovah. We just saw that it was Japheth and Shem who lived and were taught by Methuselah, the Shalach, or the Melchizedek. Why? Because they were learning the ways of Yehovah. Jacob lived with with Shem for quite some time, almost half his year, maybe even more than half of his life. No, it was more than half of his life before he went and took a bride for himself at 84 years old. He had lived with Shem for about 50 years of that 84 years. You'll see it. What was he doing? He was learning righteousness, and it takes time to learn righteousness. By the time we go through these lessons, we're probably going to be at about 350 hours. That's it. 350 hours of teaching. My teaching. Hopefully, that will be a whole lot more hours of your studying to see what I'm saying is so, and seeing for yourself what the scriptures say. But it takes time not only to learn it, but to get it instilled in your heart and your soul, their thoughts and emotions, so that you can begin to live it out. It takes time. We've learned false ways. It's hard for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Why? Because he's so tied to the world, he doesn't want to leave it. He loves those riches. Well, he taught these seed of Ha'adam the ways of Yehovah. And at that time assembled Ha'adam's seed and acquainted them with the instruction of Yehovah, the Torah of Yehovah. That's the first time they're seeing it, most of them. And he ordered it to be proclaimed in all the places where Ha'adam's seed dwelt, saying, "Where is the man who wishes to know the ways of Yehovah and good works? Let him come to Enoch." Oh my goodness, isn't that beautiful? Where is the man who wishes to know the ways of Yehovah and good works? That's what I ask myself every week. Where is the man who delights to know the way of Yehovah? And all the sons of men, and all Ha'adam's seed. You see how easy it is to fall into just that old routine? We've got to press so carefully to make sure that we keep our understandings righteous. And all Ha'adam's seed then assembled to him. For all who desired this thing went to Enoch. What thing? To know the ways of Yehovah and good works. And Enoch reigned over Ha'adam's seed according to the word of Yehovah. Look at, I put he was the Melchizedek. Yes. And they came and bowed to him, and they heard his word. Now, don't think that word reigned is Melchizedek. It's not. No, I just know, I understand what the Melchizedek is. It's a position. And look what it says. They put the Spirit of Elohim. I'm surprised they didn't capitalize it. So most would do. And Spirit Elohim was upon Enoch. When the 144,000 are raised up and have a pillar of fire and smoke over them, I realized this morning it's going to start out with fire. Why? Because on Shavuot we begin with what? We begin with a sunset. So we're going to see fire first. In the morning, when the sun comes up, we're going to see the smoke. But we're going to see fire first. When you are watching, like we're supposed to do this Sunday, get on the internet. See if in Israel, all of a sudden, there's pillars of fire starting to show up at their dusk on that day. It's going to be about 8 to 10 hours, depending on where you are in the United States. It's going to be about 8 to 10 hours before our sunset. But we'll start seeing it then. The men who are watching, they'll see it if it happens, before it even happens to them. Because Spirit Elohim will be upon them, just as it was upon Enoch. What did he teach them? He taught all his men. Look at, they're called his men. Now they're coming to him. Maybe they're forsaking the Elohim. That's what's going to happen with the 144,000 when they're raised up. The men that come to him with their families are going to be his men. Their men. Not the Elohim's men anymore. Not Obama's men. Not the president of Zuma, president of South Africa's men. No, he's going to be their men. And he taught all his men the wisdom of Elohim and his ways. And Ha-Adam's seed served Yehovah. Oh, look at that. Ha-Adam's seed served Yehovah all the days of Enoch. And they came to hear his wisdom. Do you think this one man made a difference in the world? And all the kings of Ha-Adam's seed, both first and last, big ones, important ones, and not so important ones, together with their princes and judges, came to Enoch. See, I think this is what we're talking about when you're talking about spirits and demons. Princes and judges came to Enoch when they heard of his wisdom, and they bowed down to him, and they also required of Enoch to reign over them, to which he consented. Wow. Here's a man who has been separated from the world for years, and now all of a sudden is being raised up and used by Elohim. Does that sound like something that's going to happen in the last days with men who are scattered all over the earth when Yehovah raises up Israel and all the places where he scattered them? I think it does. And they assembled in all 130 kings and princes, and they made Enoch king over them. They were all under his power and command. All the kings of the earth are coming under his power and his command, which is Yehovah's power and Yehovah's command. After all, the earth is Yehovah's and all those who dwell in it. And he taught them wisdom, knowledge, and the ways of Yehovah. He made peace amongst them. And peace was throughout the earth during the life of Enoch. You know what? This 243 years, next verse, is what the millennial kingdom is going to be like in the last days. Peace was throughout the earth during the life of Enoch. And Enoch reigned over Ha-Adam's seed 243 years. And he did justice and righteousness with all his people. His people. Oh, isn't that amazing? And he led them in the ways of Yehovah. This is Isaiah 11, 1 through 4, talking about the servants of Elohim that are being raised up in the last day. There shall come forth a rod from the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. It's a spiritual branch of Jesse. This is not a flesh branch of Jesse. we always want to make it David, and oh, geez, then we go to Jesus. Somehow we get to Jesus. How do we get, if he's supposed to be the seed of Elohim, how can he be the seed of Jesse? No, that doesn't even make sense. We don't get it. The spirit of Yehovah shall rest upon him. The spirit of wisdom, understanding, the spirit of counsel and might. He's talking about the 144,000, each one of these set apart men. The spirit of knowledge and the fear of Elohim. His delight is in the fear of Yehovah, and he shall not judge by the sight of his eyes, nor decide by the hearing of his ears. But with righteousness he shall judge the poor, and decide with equity the meek of the earth. He shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth. Remember, Abraham had a rod, a staff, that he used for judging. He used it in Egypt. He used it on the rock. He used it among his people. But we are going to do it by the rod of our mouth. Remember, the last thing that Moses was told to speak to the rock. Don't hit it with your stick. And he failed to do what he was supposed to do. Broke the pattern. Talking about something new. Talking about using the rod of our mouth now. The 144,000 are going to speak it. And with the breath of his lips, he shall slay the wicked. We will slay the wicked with the breath of our lips. Talking about the servants of Elohim, who were at one point Adam's seed. He did righteousness with all people, and he led them in the ways of Yehovah. And these are the generations of Enoch. Generations. These are the sons of Enoch. Well, these are the children of Enoch. It says generations. I don't know why they say generations here. I think that's a poor translation. These are the really children, the tough of Enoch. Methuselah, Elisha, and Elimelech. 3 sons and their sisters, Milcah and Naamah. And Methuselah lived 87 years, and he begat Lamech. And it was in the 50th year of the life of Lamech. Remember, this is a different Lamech. This is not the one who killed Cain. This is the one on Canaan's side, on Seth's side. And it was in the 50th year of the life of Lamech when Adam died. Here's how we knew when he died. The 56th year. 930 years old was he at his death. And his 2 sons with Enoch and Methuselah, his son, Methuselah was Enoch's son, his 2 sons. Who are we talking about his 2 sons? Adam's 2 sons might be Cain and Seth. But remember, Enoch had 2 other sons besides Methuselah. Maybe we're talking about Elisha and Elimelech. I don't know. I think we're talking about Cain and Seth. I think. Buried him with great pomp, as at the burial of kings, in the cave which Elohim had told him. And in that place all Ha'adam's seed made a great mourning and weeping on account of Adam. It has therefore become a custom among Ha'adam's seed to this day, mourning, I guess. And Ha'adam died because he ate of the tree of knowledge, he and his sons after him, as Yehovah had spoken. Well, again, I think we confuse this spiritual death with the flesh death. I don't think he said it's going to happen in the day. It didn't happen in the day, did it? All right. Man was created to live forever. Yehovah Elohim commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die. I think the day he sinned is the day he died. Yeshua, here's what they say Yeshua said. Let the dead bury the dead. But we are not really alive until we eat the Passover and enter into the time of life. Right now, Ha-Adam's seed is nothing more than walking dead. And until they leave the Elohim of their birth, join themselves to Yehovah and his other called out men, and then at Passover eat the Passover lamb and become the Kassid, the everyman, that's when they come back into the image of Elohim. Elohim kind, Elohim Kassid. Well, here's what I thought about it for a long time, before I understood the spiritual aspect of it, was this business about what Peter says, but beloved, do not forget one thing, that with Yehovah, one day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as a day. So I would think, oh, all right, well, he didn't let him live more than 1,000 years, so that was the day. I don't think that's correct. In fact, I'm going to get rid of that because I think it misleads us in ways that we don't want to go, because we forget how important it is to become from Ha-Adam's seed into Kassid, into the Ezra, the seed of Elohim. You follow what I'm saying? I hope you do. As Yehovah had spoken. You know what? Treasuring the words of Elohim. It says, as Yehovah had spoken. This is where I first saw this. I actually transliterated this last week. I told you it was 34:17 and it was Ezekiel 37:14. It's my dyslexia kicking in, but this is where I saw for the first time something profound. It says, then you shall know that I, Yehovah, have spoken it and performed it, says Yehovah. Here is his name, Yehovah, being used before and being used after what is so important for us to understand, that what he says, he does. Don't bet your life on anything but Yehovah performing his will. If you want to live forever. If you want to continue to be Ha-Adam's seed, then go ahead and do what you're doing now. He will swallow up death forever. And my master, Yehovah, will wipe away the tears from all faces. The rebuke of his people he will take away from the earth, for Yehovah has spoken. It's about what Yehovah says. Elohim is not a man that he should lie, nor the son of man that he should repent. Has he said, and he will not do? Has he spoken, and he will not make it good? Don't bet on that. It's a losing proposition. For he spoke, and it was done. He commanded, and it stood still. Probably talking about the sun, I suppose. Reminding us about what happened with Joshua. Okay, well, I think we're going to have to stop here. It's 1 o'clock, 1:01, so yeah, I do have to stop here. All right, well, we're going to pick up here next week. We got through verse 16 of this chapter 3 of Yasher. Thank you for joining me this week. You know what? Yehovah will bless your faithfulness in listening to what I have to say. You will see things that you've never seen before. You will hear things that you've not heard before. But you will see how they all fit together if you will continue to listen to what I have to say. It's taken me a long time to find out what I have. And what I have is valuable. I believe this is some of what Canaan had. This is some of what Enoch had to give to Ha-Adam's seed. please continue to join me. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. We are Israel Michael DDA. And listen to what I have to say faithfully as we go through the instructions, the Torah of Yehovah. Ooh, he grows on it chapter by chapter by chapter. Here a little, there a little. And we'll get to see how it all fits together. Well, hey, thank you for joining me today. We'll see you next week, okay? Y'all come back now, you hear? Bye now.